Welcome to How to Paint Videos with Country Corner Pottery Studio. I am Amanda, the owner, operator, and artist at Country Corner Pottery Studio, and today we are going to be painting this little elephant. Isn't it adorable? We are going to be using a couple techniques on this elephant. We're actually going to be antiquing the elephant, and then we are going to be using a little bit of dry brush on the elephant. Now, I don't want this to scare any of you. These are very simple techniques that anyone can do with just a little bit of guidance, and that is what I am here to help you with. So let's get started. As you can see here, we've got our paint colors. We've got this gray, which is like a pewter kind of gray. And then we have a pavement gray. It's almost black, but it has a little bit of gray into it. This is going to be what is going to help us antique this little guy. And then we have pink, which is going to be for the bow. And we might also use a little bit of pink on the inside of the ears, inside of the mouth, and at the tip of the nose. And then we have black and white for the eyes. And I haven't quite decided what color I'm actually going to do the eyes yet. So as he goes along, I'm pretty sure we will figure it out and we will go from there. So for this project, if you're ordering the paint kit from me, this paint kit will come with the elephant, with your colors, and with 2 brushes that I send to you. You're also going to need a small container. I always like to use these little 2-ounce souffle cups, and a little bit of water. You don't have to have a squirt bottle, but it makes it a little bit easier. And then I also have a little bit of water in this kind of squirt bottle, so I can put some in this container. It's just easier to have it here in my craft room that way. And you're also going to need some paper towels, and then you will also need your water for your brush rinse. Alright, so let's get started. What we're going to start with is we're going to start with just putting a coat of paint on this little guy. And we're going to start with this pewter gray. It's this gray color right here. It's not the dark gray, it's the pewter gray. And I mean, you can start in the back, you can start in the front, but you're just going to coat him really nice with this gray. You want to make sure you get some real nice even brush strokes here. And you want to make sure you kind of keep the paint even as well. It doesn't look like this one will cover very differently, so you should be okay with one coat, but you want to make sure you get it as even as possible so you don't have a lot of differences there in your paint coverage. You want to make sure that when you're painting, you get in all the crevices and all the ends of your paint project. You want to get total full coverage here. He's got a few little curves and nooks and crannies, so you want to make sure you get those too, especially around the tail. I'm going to get in there real good. Get that covered. And a lot of times with these paint projects, on these videos, you know, this is the very first time that I've ever painted these too. So sometimes you'll see me have to go back and redo things. And you know, that's perfectly okay. Acrylic paint is very forgiving. You can also, I've had projects before where I hated the entire project, so I went and covered it all completely with white and started completely over. I don't suggest that. It's not a lot of fun, but like I said, the medium is pretty forgiving, and you can correct your mistakes and change what you don't like. That's why it's such a fun beginning medium to work with on ceramics. When you get into glazing in your ceramics, it's such a permanent fixture, and you don't always know what your product is going to look like, your final product, until you fire it again. With your acrylic, you know, it's very straightforward. What you see is what you get. You know, it's drying this color, so it's always going to be this color. There's not going to be any change, you know, not much change at all in this once it's sealed. This is the color we've got. You will notice that I did paint the bottom. If you're ever going to put any of your pieces in competition, the bottoms do have to be painted, or else they'll mark it as incomplete. But if you're just using it for your own personal joy and you don't want to paint the bottom, you don't have to. I just love this little elephant. I think it would be such a nice piece to give at a baby shower as a keepsake for the little new one to come. This paint kit will also come with a few selections for the bow color. So you will get the regular colors, the regular grays here that we're using, and your regular eye color. I think we're going to go with a blue on the eyes, but your regular eye color, but your bow color, you will be able to pick that from pink, baby blue, and yellow, I think is what I'm going to do. Again, you just want to make sure you get in all the crevices here, all the creases. Now when you get to the eyes on this little guy, you can kind of be a little bit careful how you go about doing the eyes. And just kind of, you don't want to get too carried away and get it all over where the white's going to be. It can be a little difficult to cover sometimes. So you can just rough it in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just rough it in. I'm going to need a little bit more paint here. Again, there's no right or wrong place to start on your project. You don't have to start in the back. You don't have to start on the front. You just pick a spot that you feel good about and just start painting. You want to go back and make sure you're not leaving globs of paint or anything like that, because it will dry and give you an extra bump or an extra texture there that you don't really want. So again, just rough in around that eye. Don't have to be perfect. We are going to go back and fix it. You see I've got a little bit of glob up there, and I want to go back and catch that, smooth it out, because you don't want to give him any extra texture than what he already has. And I'll show you why that is important here in just a little bit. When we go to antique, it catches the extra texture, so you don't want anything there to catch texture that you don't want to. Same thing with your bow that you did with your eyes. Just rough it in. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now you see there's some gray up in there. I'm actually going to use a smaller, more detailed brush to get that up in there. Again, there's no need in putting extra gray paint there where we're not going to need it. And again, you just want to look at it. After you think you're mostly done, you want to look at it. Just make sure you don't have any lighter spots. If you do, just put a little more paint on there. See, here's a little bit lighter spot. You just want to cover that. And you just want to make sure you're not missing any places or have any white spots showing that need to be gray. Got a little bit of lightness going on here. So we'll give it another little coat. Alright, so we're going to go in now with a smaller brush, and we're going to catch this extra part right in here. And you're just getting right there in the corner. Now when you get this paint kit, you will get a flat brush that's about a 1/4 inch wide, and then you will also get a detail brush, which is a size 0 brush, so it will fit right in that little crevice there where you need it to, and get all those small details for you. Alright, so we have the gray. He looks pretty good. I don't see any light spots or white spots, so that is great. Next we are going to work on the bow tie, or the little bow around its neck. And we're going to be doing that in the pink. Again, you will get a color choice here of pink, blue, or yellow when you go to order the kit. So you're going to do this with a smaller brush and just trim right down through there. And for me, it is always easier to start at the edge and pull your paint toward the middle, like so. Again, I'll show you that. So it's always easier for me to start at the edge, put that paint right where I want it to go, and pull it toward the center to get my coverage. Again, I am one that I would rather use a smaller brush and have to take a little bit longer than use a larger brush and have to go back and trim up 2 or 3 times. This is not about speed. It's just about enjoying painting the piece. And for me, it's about having a little piece of my own while I'm painting. So again, you can start on the end there, put that paint right where you want it, and then drag it to the center. Then when you get up in the center of where you're painting, you can pull it back and forth however you want to. But when you're getting around the ends, it's just easier to start at the boundary line and pull your way in. I really like that, how that pink plays off that gray. Pink and gray is one of my favorite color combinations. It's just so precious. And the little details tend to take a little bit longer and a little bit more concentration. And you can see there where we have gotten the gray a little bit on the bow. This is where I was talking about. It's not impossible to cover it. It just takes a little bit extra time to cover it. So that's why I was saying that you just, you can rough it in, but try not to go all the way over. Because if we did, then we would have to cover this pink 3 or 4 times to get it to cover where we're just doing one little spot. Again, you can put that paint right up to the border of where you want it to go. Pull it back to the middle. It gives you some real clean lines. Right where you want it to go. We're going to pull it straight across and then pull it to the middle. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't have the balance or the hand steadiness to do this. It's really mostly about the brushes that you use and the size brushes that you use, and just breathing and taking your time and knowing that, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's yours. This is about just having a moment of calm and having a moment to just do something for yourself. So there's our bow. It looks really good. I really do like that pink. We'll give it a little touch up there. All right. So now we are going to move on. I'm going to clean this brush because I really like this brush. Anytime you're dealing with acrylic paints and you rinse out a brush because you want to reuse it, make sure that you dry it off. Your acrylic doesn't need any extra water unless it's been sitting for a little while or it's really, really thick. And that's very rare that that happens. So you really don't need any extra water. You just dab it off. See, there's no extra water there. And pick up the next color. So we're going to go with white. And we're going to start on his eyes here. Again, you can work to start at the boundary line and then pull your color toward the center. This one is really simple because he has such defined areas that you have to paint. You know, his eyes are very defined. So you don't have to guess about how big his eyes need to be. Those are already defined for you and taken care of for you. And this white is actually covering this gray really, really well, which is quite pleasing. All right, so we got one eye down. Let's get this other one taken care of. Anytime you're painting ceramics, you want to make sure that anything that you want white, you actually paint white. Because when you go to seal it, oftentimes the sealer can turn it like an antique white or a yellow even, depending on how the ceramic was mixed. And it can ruin your piece if that's not the look you wanted to have. So anything that you want a bright white, you really want to make sure that you actually paint it that bright white. and cover your piece. Again, like I said, anything that is not painted, if you ever decide to do competitions, they will throw out because it will be incomplete. And you do not want an incomplete piece. So rule of thumb, anything you want white, you just go ahead and paint it white. A little bit of gray left there. We're just going to cover that up. Alright, so now for me, I tend to be a little pickier about my lines than most people, but for me, I don't like how this white is bleeding over right here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that gray, and I'm going to go back down in here, and I'm going to clean up that line right there. Really not a big deal. Some people may not even see it. It's just me being super picky with how I paint. And I'm just going to clean up that one there too, and that one there. And it just rounds out the eyes. Again, it may be something that you don't see or that you won't even worry about, but just me. All right. So I want to continue on. Like I said, I think I'm going to do this little guy's eyes in blue, a bright blue. I'm really looking forward to this. I really love to do eyes. Okay, so anytime you do eyes, generally there's not a lot of white showing on any of your eyes unless it's made into the mold. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint this fairly large blue eye. So it's going to be fairly large, but we're going to leave the white all the way around the edges. And you want to make sure that you have a nice even pupil there. So there's one. And I'll be the first to tell you that I have a horrible time sometimes in getting these eyes even. And that's okay. I've been doing this a long time and I still have trouble with eyes. Nobody is perfect. But again, this is such a forgiving medium that if it turns out too bad, we can always go back, paint it white, and start all over again. So when I go to do the second eye, I always try to go smaller and build out from there to get them even, because it's easier to make it bigger and add more paint, because you can't take the paint away. If you get it too big or disproportional, you'll have to go back in with your white, paint it, let it dry, and then go back and do it again. Look at it and see if it's even. I still think he needs a little work. Oh, that's better. He is so cute. I don't know why I keep calling him a he. I gave him a pink bow. I don't guess it matters, but could be a girl. Or a boy. There we go. So we've got the blue eyes down. Now they look a little weird right now because they don't have any pupils, but they're fixing to. So again, I'm going to clean out the brush, wipe out the excess, and we're going to start in with some black. Now, on most of your animals, most of the eye is pupil, not iris. So you're going to just paint right over top of that. And you're only going to leave just a thin line of blue all the way around. You can leave as much or as little as you want. I really like that. I don't want our blue to get completely lost. So I want to go over here. I want to do that again. Looks like we're a little uneven right here. Alright, so he's looking pretty good. Now, there is something that people like to do, especially on your cartoon style animals, is to give them a little fleck in the eye. Now I'm using this tool. I actually got it at the Dollar Tree. So we're going to do a fleck here, and we're going to go over here and do one right over here in the same area. And then we're going to come in with our toothpick that I love so much. Again, toothpick is one of those things you just got to have in your art room for times like this. And you're going to go to the opposite side and give him another smaller fleck. And this is just supposed to be how the light plays off the eyes. So there are his eyes. I like him. He's looking good. Okay, so his eyes are done. His bow is done. Now, on an elephant's toes, generally the toenails here are a little bit darker. So we're actually going to go in. Let me find my brush again. We are going to go in with that dark pavement color right here, this pavement color, and we're going to do his toes, each toenail, that dark pavement color. We're going to do them real quick, just like that. You want to be careful not to get out of your little line that they've given you. And do his little toes. He's so cute. Oh, it's just turning out adorable. And don't forget these up here. These are a little bit more tricky, but you can do them nonetheless. They have a front part, a top part, and that kind of goes here to the back a little bit. So you want to make sure you get it all. Again, this is called Pavement Gray. And you're going to get the back part of his toe here. Okay. And the same over here. Alright, and there's his little toes. Isn't he cute? I just love it. Alright, so this is the next part. This is the part that is going to be fairly new, maybe completely new to most of all of you. This is the part where we antique. Now, the secret here is that you have to have a matte or a satin sealer. Now, you can use about any brand of clear satin spray paint. This is Krylon. It is a non-yellowing and it dries in 10 minutes or less. I really, really like this. There is also a matte acrylic sealer in the paint department at Walmart that you can also use. So this is the part that's going to take a little bit of time. You're going to see nothing for a few minutes. I'm going to go spray him outside, and when he gets dry, I'm going to come back and you're going to see the reason why we have to make sure that he is sprayed and sealed. And before I go, I'm seeing a little bit of a light color right here on top of his head, and I want to take care of that before I go and seal him. Like I said, nobody is perfect. I've been doing this a long time and I still see spots that I miss. Just look at him one more good time under the light. Get any spots we need to. I think he looks pretty good. So I'm going to go seal him, and I will be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I have been gone about 5 minutes, and it's warm and breezy outside, so it didn't take it very long at all to dry. But as you can see, he's got a little bit of a shine to him. But what this is doing, this is going to protect all the painting we just did from the additional painting we're about to do. Now let me show you how that's going to work. So our next technique that we are going to be using is called antiquing. Now, the purpose of antiquing is to get down in all these little grooves and pull out that detail, such as these little lines here and the little curves here and around the lips here. It's going to pull out that detail and really finish this piece off nicely. So how to do that? This is where your little souffle cup comes in. To do that, you are going to use the dark pavement color. Now I just take the end of a brush and I'm going to dip me up some paint here. It doesn't take a whole awful lot to do this, but you just put your paint in there and you're going to add some water. So you're going to add that water in there. And what you're doing, you don't really need so much a thick coverage. You just need the color. You need that color to get down in the crevices and pull out those details. So here's what it looks like. You've literally just colored your water, and this is what you're going to use to antique. Now, this can get a little messy. I actually have a brush that I use for this. So you're going to want to, I'm going to move this paint palette out of the way. I'm going to lay down some extra paper towels. And you're going to want a couple paper towels for yourself. So you're going to take these couple of paper towels. Now you're going to use this paper towel, once you put this on here, to wipe away the excess. And the easiest way to do that is to wet this paper towel just a little bit. You don't want it really, really wet. You just want it damp. So we're going to dampen this paper towel pretty good. See, it's not wringing wet, it's just damp. And then we're going to start the antiquing process. Now, I always like to do a section at a time. I don't want to overwhelm the piece, because if it starts to dry before you get it wiped off where you want to, it takes a little bit longer to get it wiped off, and it may not turn out the exact way you want. So we're going to start with just a little bit at a time. We're going to start with his ears and do across his face and around the back of his head and work our way around. So you're just going to grab some of that paint and just rub it over. Just rub it over. Make sure you get down in the crevices, down in the creases. Now the reason that you needed to protect this before is because your acrylic paint is water-based. So if you were adding this water on top of your acrylic paint that you just painted without a sealer, you see how it's kind of running off? It would not be doing that. It would be breaking that paint down even further, and then when you went to wipe, it would actually wipe that paint off. And we don't want to do that because we worked really super hard to get him painted, so we do not want to lose any of that. Okay, so we've got this part of him antiqued. Here's where the magic happens. You take the damp part of this towel and you just wipe. If you want a little more antique somewhere, you leave it. If you want a little less, you wipe some more. If you take too much, go back and do it again. So you're really just wiping, and it's leaving that dark in those crevices. So I really want his nose to come out with some really nice texture. So I'm going to put it back on his nose, and I'm going to let it sit. I'm just going to let it sit there for a little bit. And it may be that I have my towel a little too wet. But you see how his nose has picked up that antique down in these cracks. That's what you're going for. You're looking to get the crevices antiqued. You're looking to pick up these little cracks, these little subtle details that are in the mold that sometimes get lost in the paint. Yeah, this piece is actually working better with dry paper towel. Then you're going to go around here, around back, around behind his head here. And you're going to take that paint and do the same thing. You're not going to get a lot back here because his texture is really smooth, but it will pick up some of that gray in some places. I'm going to get me another paper towel because, like I said, it seems to be doing better today with dry paper towel. And you might see that the wet paper towel takes away too much, and you don't want that to happen, so you can go back in with this dry. Go back in and just do a dry. So now that it's set just a little bit up here, up around the nose, I still really want some good detail right here. So I'm going to go back and put it back in. And again, I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit while I continue on my antiquing journey. So we're going to go here and we're going to go through the front of the body. And you want to get down in these crevices because this is what you're antiquing. You're trying to get a little bit of dark down in those creases so you can get that beautiful, so you can pick up on those subtle, beautiful details that are in the mold. So we're going to go back through here. We're going to clean up around his eyes. There we go. Now we're getting a little bit of that dark in there. And you can really tell it here on the pink. So you see I'm just wiping. You don't want to wipe too hard because then you take away the antique. But you see on this bow, this antiquing really took on this bow here. So it just kind of gives it a little bit of a more real feel to the piece. And you see where the dark has caught up in the little wrinkles of his legs. That's what we were going for, is catching, really catching that detail that's in the mold itself that sometimes gets lost when you just do regular colors. And as you can tell, it does not take a lot to do this antiquing. It doesn't take a lot of paint. So you caught some right there around the tail, which is good. If you got a little runny there, you just take the edge of your cloth and get down in the corners. You don't want it to look runny, but you do want to give it a little bit of detail. All right. I think he's come along quite well. If you want to clean off his eyes a little bit, if you don't like that dark color, if you don't like that how that's looking on the eye, you can just give you a little bit of water and clean that up a little bit. But I think it looks very nice. Let's clean that up a little. All right. He is looking so cute. Now the next thing that I would like to do is I would like to go in with my size 0 brush, which would be your detail brush that comes with the kit. And we're going to take just a minute and we're going to pick up a little black and we're going to give him some eyelashes right here in the corner of his eyes, just for a little flare. And I actually did a little too much. But where you have sealed it, it is the perfect time to practice your eyelashes if you're not real good at them. Because where you've sealed it, if they don't look just the way you like them, you can wet it just a little bit and take it right off. So this one looks just a little bit shorter than its counterparts over there. Yep, so you can give him a little eyelash if you want to. You don't have to, that's totally up to you. Totally depends on your preference. Now, the next technique that we are going to use is a dry brushing technique. Now, I like to use a brush that has a little bit of stiffness to it. And the 1/4 inch brush that you'll get in your kit is perfect for this. But I'm going to use one that's just a little bit different. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, so it's got a little bit of a stiffness to it. And what you're going to do, you're going to pick up some of this pink. And it's just a little bit of that pink on the edge there. And then you're going to wipe it. And this is called a dry brush. And then you're going to take that dry brush and you're going to start in the edge of his ear, because that's where it's going to be the most pink. And you're going to pull some pink down into his ear. See, I got too much there. But you've sealed it, so you can always just wipe it off and start over. But you're just giving him a little bit of color right here in his ears. He's so cute. Give him a little bit more up in the top here. It was a little too strong up in here, so I just took the wet, and wiped it out. But there's that ear and there's that one. You can do it either way. If you like just the gray and you don't want to give him any more pink, you do not have to. Again, this is totally your piece. But this technique is called dry brushing, because you're dry brushing, you're not using as much paint, and you're drying the brush off and you just rub it in. And the more you rub, the better it blends. Again, we're not running any races here. We are just having fun. And see, there's a little much right here again. So I'm going to take the damp part of my cloth and I'm just going to pull it back. And then go back in and rub it. You can even pick up a little bit more pink if you'd like, but just dry brush it out real good. There we go. Now I also want to give him a little bit of pink right here on his nose. And you can even catch him a little pink down the inside of his nose, right down through here in the dry brush. So you really get a nice color combination there because you've gotten the gray. So he's got the light gray and then he's got the dark gray in the creases there, and then you've dry brushed over top of it with a little bit of pink. And then I want to go right down here inside of his little mouth and give him a little bit of pink in his mouth. Again, if you go too far, you just wipe it off. And lastly, for the pink dry brush, I want to give him a little pink in his cheeks. He's just so sweet. And you really want to rub that pink out because you don't want any solid lines of pink, or you don't want it to, you want it to look more faded, not so much where it stops and starts. You see it had a line there, and you could just fade it on out. So it's not, if you're a lady, it's about like doing your makeup. You don't want your blush to be a solid line. You want it to kind of blend in if you do your makeup. But there he is. You've given him his dry brush in the pink to give a little rosy to his cheeks, a little bit of dry brush in the ears and on the nose and in the mouth, and that is it for the dry brush technique on this little fella. Now what I am going to do, and I will show you the finished product here just shortly, I am actually going to seal him again. You're going to want to seal him again because you remember you have new paint on here that has not been sealed. All of that antiquing hasn't been sealed, none of the dry brush has been sealed, and his little eyelashes have not been sealed, so you want to make sure you do that. Now for me, for my personal taste, I'm actually going to seal him in a gloss. It is called a Triple Thick Crystal Clear Glaze by Krylon. Now it is going to make this very, very shiny and actually almost look like it's been glazed and then refired. So I am going to go and spray him again, and I will show you what it looks like when I come back. Alright folks, and here he is. He's so shiny with that triple thick glaze. I really like that glaze. It is also a UV protectant, so it is really, really nice. So there you go. You have your little elephant keepsake. Again, you can order this kit from me at countrycornerpotterystudio.com. You will get all the colors that you see here, so that's 6 colors. That's that dark pavement gray, the elephant gray, a pink, blue, or yellow. You will get to choose for the bow color. Black, white and blue for the eyes. You will also receive 2 paintbrushes, and I will even send you the little souffle cup that you need to mix your antiquing in. You will also need for this project, it does not come with the paint kit, but you do need for this project at least 1 can of clear sealer. And in this project today we used 2. We used the satin to do the first coat, and then we used the triple thick glaze to do the second coat. I hope you have enjoyed my video. Again, hop on over to countrycornerpotterystudio.com to order your kit today. It is $16.95. That is with shipping, with your paint, with your piece, and your brushes for $16.95 anywhere in the United States. Have a wonderful day and happy painting.